All right, so James Flippin, we heard your top of the news report, your update on the 4.8 magnitude earthquake that hit us here in the Northeast sector. We now have reports that people have felt the tremors from Boston down to Delaware. It started at 10:23. It lasted a few seconds in some places, longer in other areas. We have heard from Governor Hochul, who quite frankly said nothing about nothing other than she was going to check to see if there was any structural damage. Mayor Eric Adams is expected to speak, but the Office of Emergency Management has been like an hour behind us. They were telling people to remain indoors, that's not the thing to do. They were also talking about how you have to immediately respond to certain situations occurring. But again, they're not experienced in this area. They never really dealt with an earthquake with this kind of magnitude. And everybody wants to know, since the epicenter was in right there in Huntington, New Jersey, where's Governor Murphy? I mean, I know he's always shaking till happy hour starts, but don't you think he should have made some kind of a personal appearance since the bulk of the shake, rattle, and roll was in the Garden State?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't speak to whatever he's doing at this exact moment. I do know that New Jersey's activated its operations center, its emergency operations center. We've heard from Hochul. Did Mayor Adams already speak?
No, we're waiting because, again, they don't really have much information. I can understand they want to be a reassuring voice. They want to be seen. You know, the Governor Hochul is doing her job. Mayor Adams is doing his job. He'll have Office of Emergency Management. It's been $1 short and a day late on this. Incredible that Murphy has not made an appearance. I mean, especially that's the state that the actual earthquake occurred in.
Yeah, but wait a second. Aren't you kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth if you're saying they don't have much to say and you're saying, why isn't this guy getting up there and talking?
We're going to keep you alerted all day long to any breaking developments. This is a place that you can check in for information. But don't come to these conclusions. An emergency report that came out, we had an emergency alert that said remain indoors. I mean, we've had people who were in California for earthquakes. I was in California for the big one in 1989. You don't do that. So stop. You're not used to dealing with earthquakes in this part of the country. You're doing everything that you're doing. You went to Wikipedia first, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what they're doing. I'm telling you. Yeah. This is not their field of expertise. Nor'easters, floods, Superstorm Sandy. Yes, they have the template. They don't have a template for earthquakes.
I have gone a little bit deeper than Wikipedia at this point. Apparently, this is the third strongest to strike in New Jersey in 280 years. So that's pretty significant. Experts say that a 4.8 magnitude is pretty big for the East Coast. The way the fault lines are different from, say, California and Japan, it's just kind of different deep underground there. Also, 3 miles from the surface, that's how deep this was. Apparently, that's not that deep for an earthquake. Sometimes they can get up to like 90 miles deep. So that's potentially why there was such an intense feeling for people. That energy deep underground was obviously pretty close to the surface. And experts say this also may have been building for quite some time. Kind of the way the plate tectonics is here in the East Coast, it may have been building for quite some time.
Now, see, you've given better information than Kathy Hochul did. It was very brief. That Mayor Eric Adams will give, and hopefully he won't be talking about himself and will just let whatever experts he has. But they just released a emergency alert an hour and a half later that said there will be potentially secondary seismic shakes. To our credit, we were talking about that a half hour after this occurred, based on experience that we, lay people, had. Both our callers who actually experienced this in California, I who experienced it in California in 1989, the San Francisco earthquake, and to those that have experienced previous earthquakes here who said there was nothing comparable to this at all. And again, I put out an all-points bulletin to Governor Murphy. Governor Murphy, or if the staff is listening, have the governor make an appearance. Because I know he's always shaking till happy hour starts. But come on, guy. This is in your state. The whole world is paying attention to this story. Nothing else matters. Remember, Biden was supposed to go down and observe the bridge damage in Baltimore later today. This is the story that everybody is focusing on. They can't get enough information. So, hey, Murph, do your job. We're going to continue to take calls. This is the only thing that matters. And we continue with our coverage since 10:30 this morning when we appraised you that a 4.8 magnitude earthquake had hit the northeast sector. We have had reports from Boston right on down to Delaware that these areas have been impacted. We heard briefly from Governor Hochul, who said she has teams out there checking areas, especially roadways. If you want to check your asphalt in your community, go outside, check the street. That's generally where, if there's been any damage, you'll see it first surface with cracks, small slivers, small problems. Bring it to the attention of your local government officials. We see Eric Adams is in the midst of one of his marathon press conferences in which every person, a member of his cabinet, is speaking. The only one who said anything of any relevance was officers of emergency management who said, as we said here, back at 11:15 this morning, if there are any aftershocks, move to an open area. So now they have amended what they had to say, James Flippin, which was initially remain indoors, just call 911, which would be an amazing overload of their capacity, 911 capacity. So if there are any secondary seismic shakes anywhere within the vicinity of where you first felt the tremors, just go outside, move to an open area. This is what they do in California all the time. It's sort of like part of their DNA. Here, we're not used to it. Understood. I give everybody a pass because they really don't know anything about this other than what they've read on Wikipedia, which is exactly what you referred to initially, James Flippin.
That's right. Looking up the Ramapo Fault.
Do you have any updates at all since we took a quick break for the O'Reilly update?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the mayor here in New York City is saying people should just go about their day, that at this point, there is that possibility for aftershocks. We're not hearing anything in terms of major damage and, big-time injuries, anything like that. This was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake that struck about 8 miles northwest of Bridgewater, New Jersey, in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, Lebanon, if you're familiar with it, kind of the epicenter there. And NJ Transit's dealing with 20-minute delays. Holland Tunnel, they had to close it for a while, then they got it moving again. Ground stops were in effect at Newark Airport, JFK Airport. So right now, it's kind of about, damage assessment, trying to figure out exactly what is going on here. We know it was about 3 miles deep, 3 miles below the surface where this earthquake struck. That's pretty shallow for an earthquake of this size, 4.8. Potentially, it looks like it's the biggest in New Jersey in 280 years. So certainly something that will be a landmark event for years that we talk about. Right now, more than anything, we're trying to keep our eyes and ears open for any reports of damage, injuries, things like that. But we have not seen that at this particular point.
And when are we going to hear from Governor Murphy, who shakes sort of erratically before happy hour? No word of him making an appearance, correct?
The only thing I've seen in regards to Governor Murphy is that New Jersey has its active emergency management center up and running now. And I can also reiterate that actually we still have the ground stop at our New York area airport.
Isn't it interesting? That's the epicenter of where the earthquake hit, right? Right
in New Jersey.
The border in Pennsylvania. It's closer to Pennsylvania than it is to New York State.
Correct.
All right, we'll give you an update. Maybe somebody can find the governor out there, Like I said, I understand he's probably in pretty bad shape from the night before. Let's go right back to the phones, as we never do here on the Rip and Read. That just shows you the extensive nature of this emergency situation. Let's go to Kathleen in Jersey City. What was it like in your neck of the woods, Kathleen?
Well, I live in Jersey City, but I live in the old American Can Company, which was built back in 1920. The building did not move. I didn't even know we had an earthquake. They don't build things like they used to.
No.
But you know what scares me? Is that with letting all these illegal newcomers over the border, and God forbid something happens, which they're coming here to do something to us, who's going to give us information? In New Jersey?
Well, I will tell you this much. Coming from the countries, especially in Central America and South America like Venezuela, they're very used to earthquakes. They probably could give us more guidance. The only contribution they can make to us at this point, other than draining our treasury. Our number is 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Melanie and Danbury. What was it like in your neck of the woods, Melanie?
Hi, Curtis. I'm a big listener on your show for every station, every program. Okay, so it was pretty bad, but I lived in California, so I was part of that earthquake. I don't know, like in the late '80s. So I was walking down to my basement. The house shook, and I was watering plants down there, believe it or not. And the first thing I did is I ran upstairs and I went outside, because that's what I remember to do, is like go outside in case, your apartment falls, the house falls.
Correct.
So,
and in fact, that's part of what you get inculcated into you when you grow up in California, where because of the San Andreas fault and other faults, you're always having tremors. You're always having sometimes very serious earthquakes. Here, we're not used to it. So when the Office of Emergency Management first put out a alert that people got on their cell phones, smartphones, iPhones, that remain indoors as part of their emergency alert, they couldn't be more hopelessly wrong. They're now on track. They're saying if there are any aftershocks, move to an open area. So it's a learning curve for everybody here, a learning curve, Melanie. Let's go, if we can, to Matt, who's calling from, is that Bloomingdale, Matt?
Yes, sir. Bloomingdale, New Jersey. I was actually in the dojo with my 11-year-old son, and it sounded like there was a jet flying right over the head. It was crazy.
And how did your son react?
He thought it was his kick that he was being taught. He thought he rocked the building with his kick, but it wasn't. It was actually an earthquake. We found out later.
Wait a second.
We were doing Superfoot Wallace drills.
So he thought that it was his spinning hook kick that caused you to actually suffer tremors, as you mentioned, like Superfoot Bill Wallace.
That's exactly right. We got a martial artist on our hands.
Wow. Well, that's great. Keep the kid practicing. It's great discipline, and it'll keep him off the streets. Let's go, if we can, to Abba, who's calling from Brooklyn. What was it like in your neck of the woods, Abba?
Hi, good afternoon. The top floor of my building, my private house, was shaking. But I just wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to make it aware to everybody that Barack Biden should think that know that it came from Lebanon, New Jersey.
Yes, excellent connection. Not Beirut, Lebanon, not Hezbollah, Lebanon, but Lebanon, New Jersey. That was pretty quick of him on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to continue to take phone calls on this, 1-800-848-9222. We've had phone calls from Boston right on down to Delaware. People did feel the 4.8 magnitude of this earthquake that hit at 10:23. We were on air within minutes, and we've gone nonstop giving you information that nobody else was giving you because they basically were just repeating themselves, what they read from Wikipedia, where anybody could do that. Whereas we were going to you, the listeners who had the real-life experiences, many of you like myself, who experienced earthquakes in California much more severe, and explaining to people what you actually do when a tremor hits, as we continue right here on WABC.